I believe that Jesus is for me. So, the fancy Bible word that makes that possible. Justification. Everyone say justification. Very good. Justification essentially means this. It's God's assessment and declaration that I am free from the guilt of my sin and a part of his family through faith in Jesus. Now, I think all of us are familiar with what Beth was just talking about, the circle of shame. We've all had those moments, right? Where we feel that weight upon us, that our sin is known. In our family, we call that the shame spiral. We can spot it in each other because it just traps us in this vortex of anger, regret, sadness, numbness. So, not to brag, but kind of a pro at the shame spiral. I got an early start. When I was in third grade or so, my older sister was in this choir, solo, and ensemble competition thing. So our whole family would load up on this, we loaded up on this Saturday and we went to some random high school and just spent 6 hours walking from room to room and listening to people sing. Not super exciting for a third grade boy. So I found some ways to entertain myself. One of the ways was just by paying attention to the lockers in the hallway of the school. There were so many of them. I mean, never in my life had I seen so many lockers in one place. It was really incredible. And some of these lockers, they looked brand new. I mean, it was so cool. I remember just being amazed at these lines of lockers. Oh my goodness, look at those. I wondered what it would be like to try to open one. Now, my parents had already told me, don't touch anything. So I know I probably shouldn't, but they looked so cool, so tempting. So I'd walk down the hallways. We're going to the next room, and my hand would kind of, accidentally brush up against the lockers as I'm walking. I'd imagine what it would be like to put my fingers on that little metal piece and jerk it up and open it to see an empty locker. I don't know. But in my mind, this was going to be so cool. But, 6 hours is a long time to just wander around a high school. And so around hour 5 or so, I finally gave in. I made sure my parents were walking up ahead and kind of lagged behind. And there in the crowded hallway, I paused right in the middle of a line of lockers, put my hand up, and I touched that little metal piece. Boy, my heart was pounding. I jerked it up. It was locked. And then the fire alarm went off. Oh no. I stepped back suddenly and looked around. No one else seemed to have noticed what I had done, but I knew this had to be my fault. All of a sudden, people start filing out of the building. Oh no. Oh no, the waves of shame just start washing over me. Why do they have a fire alarm connected to a random locker in the middle of the hallway? I leave the building with my parents. I'm watching all of these people walk out. Oh no, the fire trucks arrive. Oh no. I knew it. They were going to figure it out. I didn't know what they were going to do, fingerprints or something, but somehow I was going to get caught. And then I was probably going to get arrested. My whole life was flashing before my eyes. They're going to interrogate me. I'm going to spend some time in jail. My whole life is going to change. Shame, shame, shame. So I kept it quiet for a while, but I have a pretty guilty conscience, and after a while, I just couldn't take it anymore. So I finally told my parents, explained to them, it's all my fault. I did it. Once they figured out what exactly I had touched, they just started laughing. It's all right, they said. It's just a coincidence. But somehow, even their words, it's okay, it didn't seem to get out that deeper piece of the shame. It was harder to get over that because, it wasn't an accident. I did it on purpose. I wish that was kind of the end of my moves into areas where I shouldn't be, but unfortunately, since third grade, my sins have just gotten more bold, more reckless, more hedonistic, more selfish. And when I'm caught, I get stuck in that circle of shame. You know what that's like? Sometimes when we find ourselves stuck in those places, something can happen, right? We feel so utterly consumed by the guilt, the shame of what we've done. We might go to church and hear a message like, nah, that's okay, we're all sinners. But we know what we've done. We're so familiar, so acutely aware of our own sin. How does, nah, that's okay, help anything? Let me walk us through what I think happens when we come to Jesus. So, all of us have these moments, right? When, just like that woman that Beth was talking about, we're in this circle of shame. We're exposed, our sin is known, there's no hiding it, we're caught. And we can't fix it. But right there in that circle of shame, Jesus meets us. And he looks at us without condemnation, and he offers himself. He shows us his love for us. We see the scars in his hand, and we realize he took our sin and shame upon himself. He died on the cross for us, and he rose to new life, and now he offers that life to us. Now notice, we haven't done anything. Like, we're still standing there in that circle of shame, and yet, it's right there in the circle that Jesus makes this invitation. So now we have a decision to make. Will we choose to say yes to Jesus? Will we believe that Jesus is who he says he is? Will we declare that he is Lord? Will we choose to put off all of our own stuff and follow after him? It's our choice. But if we say yes to Jesus, then everything changes. I mean, if we say yes to him, everything changes. Our whole world moves and shifts and shakes off its axis, because if we say yes to Jesus, we get to step out of that circle of shame into the grace and the truth and the mercy of God. And in that moment, we are justified. And if you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. Now, you may need to let that sink in for a minute. If you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. Sometimes it just helps to repeat things. If you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. Do you hear me? If you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. If you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. If you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. If you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. If you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. Say it with me. If you are justified, God declares you free from the guilt of your sin and a part of his family. This is true, guys. Jesus is for all forever. And he wants to speak to you today. Are you listening?